Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. Diving right in, we've got, my name is Jay Light. I'm the host. You probably know that by now. We're like 100-something episodes deep, so I hope you figured it out. Joined today by a wonderful comedy type of man, Brian James O'Connell.
Oh, thank you, Jay. That's how I refer to myself constantly, as a comedy type of man.
you got. It's hard to pin you down into one box. You're a comedy type of man. You got a whole bunch going on.
I do a whole bunch going on. Congratulations on any podcast that's over 100 episodes. I'm like, hats off.
You know, it's the longest recorded one I've ever done. I've had about 3 other podcasts all aborted about episode 30, maybe.
Wow. I did the official iOS podcast. This was so long ago, like way before anyone else, like where everybody and their brother had a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That was called Radio Free Hollywood. And we did that live. We recorded it live at the bar at iOS upstairs in the balcony and did like interviews with people and stuff. Which is very cool. And then I would do the editing on Wednesdays during the day when I would get deliveries. And we did that for like 2.5 years.
Oh, man.
Like every Saturday night for 2.5 years. Doing that. We had we had a ton of great guests because like you just walked off on stage. You're feeling great about yourself.
Right.
Can you come over here and talk for 10 minutes about comedy and how much you love it? And it was easy. So that was nice to do. So when I see someone go like, oh, I've had 100 episodes of my podcast, I'm like, I know what goes into that. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
You know what? I'm happy to have you on. That's what I love about the podcast is you always get all kinds of different guests of talking about movies that they hate. And you picked a movie that I had never watched before.
Oh,
Last Action Hero.
Yes. I usually don't go, especially in recent years, because I'm a feature film director. I know how hard it is to make a movie, and no one sets out to make a bad movie on purpose. You know, everyone's like trying to make the best movie possible that they can. So I'm always sort of loath to do that, except for this movie. Fuck this movie.
What's your beef with this movie?
It's hard. It's several beats of it is because it should have been much better than it was. I'm a big John McTiernan guy. I tell anybody that listens, like, I sort of worship at the 3 Johns, which is John McTiernan, John Frankenheimer, and John Carpenter. And if you watch any of my stuff, it's obvious what a complete whore I am for all those guys. And many other directors like Catherine Bigelow. I can't wait until I'm lucky enough to be able to meet Catherine Bigelow and then just force her into a corner and be like, tell me everything about Near Dark. I want to, don't skip anything. Fine, I'll have drinks brought to you. Don't worry about it. Just please tell me everything about Near Dark. You're
genre king over here.
Oh, she's a genius. So then that movie, and then it's like, you're taking guys that are at like the height of their powers with him and Schwarzenegger.
Right.
The casting is incredible. And then I don't know if you've ever read a book called Good Scripts, Bad Scripts.
No, never.
I highly recommend it. It's a screenwriting book that it's very personable. You can sort of, it's not filled with a lot of like insider speak and all that. And it just really kind of breaks down like, here's an opportunity where a movie could have been good, or here's why it wasn't. And it has a broad range. Like one of the quote unquote bad scripts is the Usual Suspects, and you're like, what?
Oh, really?
He's like, I know. He's like, this is at the highest echelon of what is quote unquote bad. He was like, but hear me out. And he does take a couple of walks and a couple of runs through it, and you're like, okay, I see what you mean. But the one for Last Action Hero, it tells you sort of like the whole story behind it. It was like 2 guys. It was the first script they had ever written. And it was all the general idea was there of like, hey, we're going to like, it's a kid who gets a magical ticket and goes into a world where he has to be with his action hero, the one he grows for.
Right.
And the way it's written, it's like, everyone celebrates, pop the champagne, we're all friends, hooray. Except we don't like anything, we're going to rewrite all of it. And it's just sort of this weird, really like great sort of look into what it actually is to be a screenwriter in Hollywood, because like Schwarzenegger comes on and then he like, we love everything about it except for everything, we're going to change everything. And then you end up with what you end up with Last Action Hero, which is bloated, overlap. It's the only movie I've ever walked out of in the theater. It's the only one ever.
Oh, wow.
Because it was so long. I was the person I saw the movie with was my friend, who then I started dating, who then became my fiance, who became my ex-fiance. So lots of not good memories about this anyway. But like there was like 25 minutes left of the movie, and we had somewhere to be. We were just like, do you want to go? Like we're gonna be late. It's already 4:15. Like we saw a matinee, and we're like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
And there's and also the guy that plays the Ripper in that movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he's a dead ringer for my old screenwriting teacher, Stephen Fisher, who I also did not care for.
Tom Noonan.
Tom Noonan is great in so many things, including The Last Action Hero. But boy, was it just like a swing and a miss of like how there was just it felt like Spider-Man 3 before Spider-Man 3 had been made. It's like there's too many villains. It's overbloated. There's what's this dance sequence about? Like what's happening? It's just one of those moves.
You know what? I'm really glad that you brought this movie to my attention because I have a very, very low viewing of the body of work of Arnold Schwarzenegger at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen.
Really?
Outside of Last Action
Hero, you don't care for them, or you just haven't seen?
I haven't seen a lot of them.
Oh my goodness!
I've never seen any of the Terminator movies.
Wow!
I've never seen. I've seen maybe the last 30 minutes of Jingle All the Way.
That's okay. But like no Commando,
no Predator, nothing.
Dude,
I grew up very sheltered. I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of movies that he would have been in.
Fair enough. I had the great luxury when I was at the North Carolina School of the Arts. That's where I went. And then I stayed on after I graduated to work in the production office. I was a production coordinator. I basically treated it like getting my master's degree, but instead they paid me. So I had access to all the equipment and all that stuff. And Bill Duke came and spoke because he was friends with Ron Stacker Thompson. Ron Stacker Thompson. That's how he talks. Great screenwriting teacher and person. And I got to be Bill Duke's driver for a couple of days, which was dope.
That is super dope.
And he had just taken over being like the dean of filmmaking at Howard University in DC. And he was like, "Yeah, I've just moved out here. I don't have anything yet in my apartment." I was like, "Well, Mr. Duke, we're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, right down the road. It's a 20-minute drive. Is High Point, North Carolina, my hometown. It's the furniture capital of the world. You should absolutely go with me because whatever you buy furniture-wise in High Point, it will be cheaper if you buy it here and ship it to DC than if you bought the exact same piece of furniture in DC."
Right.
He was like, "No way." I was like, "Absolutely, I wouldn't lie. The entire town. Like my sister used to work in one of the places I'm about to take you." He was like, one of the showrooms. He was like, "Cool." So I drove him out there and we went and he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but he was loving it because there were these giant chairs. And he would sit in it. He'd be like, "This is the most comfortable chair I've ever sat in." I was like, "Right?" And then, of course, everybody would walk around. They'd be like, "Oh, Predator." He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" He was very nice to everybody. And so then to repay me, he's like, "Why don't you come out to dinner tonight with me and Dale Pollock, the dean, and Ron Stacker Thompson? I really appreciate you looking out for me." I was like, 100% I'm going to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just telling crazy good stories. The idea of like, you may or may not know this, but the Predator monster that we know is not the original Predator monster. No, they shot.
Really?
They shot for 3 days. The original idea, Predator was written by two guys who were environmentalists and vegetarians.
Okay.
The whole idea is like, what if man was hunted? Like we hunt deer, and like they're all against it. And of course, Joel Silver gets it and turns it into Predator.
Right.
So the original idea is the original Predator monster was supposed to be basically the universe's best martial artist. He was killing all these guys with guns and explosives and all that with his bare hands. Because that was the challenge.
Very intergalactic Bruce Lee vibes.
Oh, for sure. And the original costuming was this guy that was like, it's a full length skin tight bodysuit that's made of red velvet and like one giant black eye. And the stuntman they had, it was like his first movie ever. The stuntman that they had, was not very tall, so they would put him on stilts to make him look bigger than Arnold and all these, and Jesse the Body Ventura and all these guys. And but they're shooting in the jungles of Mexico during the summer, so it's like 125 degrees.
Right.
And so this guy was going to do like back roundhouse kick as the Predator and passed out in the suit.
Yikes.
So they take him out of the suit, they hydrate him, they bring him back to life, and he puts on the suit again. And they're like, "All right, action." And he goes to do the kick again and passes out. And then finally they get him out, and then like Joel Silver's got like his finger in this dude's face. He was like, "If you pass out one more time, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to pass. I swear to God." He's like, "I'm not doing it on purpose." He was like, "I swear to Christ, if you pass out one more time, I'm going to fire you."
Hollywood's so nurturing and great.
Yep. And then of course they put him in the suit. The guy passes out. They stopped shooting for the day, and Bill Duke says he was sitting in the lobby of the hotel with Carl Weathers and Schwarzenegger, and they're all smoking cigars. He's like, I went out. He's like, quick side note. He was like, I woke up. He was like, Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger are insane. He's like, they would get up at 5 a.m. in the morning and lift weights before we ever went out, like every day. He's like, I tried doing that with them once, and they were like, and Arnold's like, yo, Bill, put on more weight. You're a little girl now. You couldn't lift more. He's like, I couldn't lift my arms all day. He's like, I'm never gonna lift weights with those guys again. They're insane.
I imagine their whole real life relationship is them just doing the hand clap scene over and over again.
1,000%, because that's literally what I asked him. He was like, oh yeah, that's a thing that Carl and Arnold came up with. He goes, yeah. He's like, they're sitting in the lobby smoking cigars, drinking cognac, and listening to Joel Silver light into this dude outside in the parking lot. He's like, I'm going to make it my life's mission that you never work in this fucking town again. I'm going to ruin your career. And that guy was Jean-Claude Van Damme. Whew. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So much for that.
So they took 2 weeks off from shooting, and like just in the super hustle, Stan Winston came up with the Predator monster that is so iconic now, and he basically came up with it in 10 days.
And you know what? Probably had air conditioning inside that suit.
It did. It had a whole water system. That's why it's so jacked.
Oh, okay.
There's a whole water system in there that like just keeping that dude cool the entire time.
You know what? To Jean-Claude Van Damme's credit, he didn't have to work in that weird Mexican jungle ever again.
No, he didn't.
And good for him.
Yeah. So when you watch him and stuff like The Expendables and all that, I'm like, hey man, you made a career of it. But yeah, like early stuff like Commando and Predator, Red Heat, where he's like he's in the drop top car driving through the junkyard shooting guys with machine guns, and the Rolling Stones Satisfaction is playing. Like I got no context for any of this. He puts a tape in the tape deck. Bum, ba, da, 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 he's just driving through it and just shooting dudes with Uzis. The early Schwarzeneggers, highly recommend.
But that's the thing is like watching this movie with no context
for sure.
Of Schwarzenegger. Oh, hi Edgar. We've got a cat guesting on the podcast for a minute. I think
I insisted on it. I insisted on the cat being here.
But the movie is a movie that I definitely enjoyed it.
Yes,
and I could see, and you can
enjoy it now, and like it's
a Shane Black movie. You can definitely tell. It's got Shane Black stamp all over it.
Oh, sure.
And it's fun and it's self-referential, and I appreciate a movie. I just talked about for the show. Stop doing that. I just talked about on an episode for the show of Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage.
The Return of Xander Cage.
And that is a movie that I think is on some level trying to do what Last Action Hero does, where it's a movie that is overtly an action movie, but also winking at the audience, but in the dumbest way possible. Last Action Hero, at least, is being smart about it.
Last Action Hero only does that in hindsight. At the time, they were not trying to wink at the audience. They were and they weren't. Like, they were doing the stuff, but they never went far enough with it. And if you can see in the third act, like, they're really going serious with it. Like, they're having him, like, be shot. He's going to be dying.
Oh, yeah.
The kid is like, oh, my arm. I'm like, what are you doing?
It gets very, very serious very quick.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a movie that I wish that there had not been a third act that had played out the way it did.
Yeah, I kind of wanted them just to stay inside the movie world and do more of the fun stuff, which is like, I was expecting the two of them to like just be hopping from movie genre to movie genre, because that was the big thing when it got promoted at the time, was showing the Schwarzenegger as Hamlet in the black and white thing, like where the kid's having the daydream about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me a ton of that. If anything, The Last Action Hero reminds me of the disgrace that is The Master of Disguise, the Dana Carvey movie.
What a garbage movie.
We went into that going like, oh man, it was me and a bunch of my buddies from film school, and we were kind of getting like day drunk at the Fairfax farmers market right down the street.
There you go.
3rd and Fairfax, and we're like, oh, let's go see. It'll be like one long SNL sketch. It'll be hilarious. And then we went in and we started watching it. Like, there seems to be a lot of kids here. And then the trailer was for like a VeggieTales, the first VeggieTales movie. A Jonah the Whale story. We're like, oh no. Like, it's a kids movie, but like all the references and bits there wasn't enough of them in Last Action Hero for you to like sort of have fun and sort of turn your brain off and have that popcorn thing, because they kept doing stuff. And then they would do stuff. They're like, as you were saying, like having a wink at the audience, but they were doing things. They were basically kind of pointing out how bullshit all these movies are.
Right.
So I'm like, well, then I can't enjoy this anymore.
And see, you know what?
You're telling me I'm dumb for liking this in the first place.
I think that might be where I appreciated it, and not for telling you that you're dumb. I don't think you are. I do think that I envy that you have seen all these action movies and that you have this context in which you can hate it.
Oh yeah.
But this is one of the only action movies that I have seen in the past 5 years.
Okay.
And so from that
in that type of context and with the gift of hindsight, like, yeah, this movie.
And it makes me want to see more.
Yeah.
It really, because now I want to see like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's obviously a joke on a joke on a joke on a joke on a joke.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of hats on top of hats.
Right. And that is to the movie's detriment at times, for sure. Like when they have the part when they're trying to figure out like what the mob guys' plans are, and now I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, there are way too many villains in this movie. There's way too many villains.
There's the Ripper, which is a serial killer. There's
Vivaldi.
Yeah, Vivaldi, who's this sort of like Bond villain type of thing. The guy who played it was the same actor that is Tywin Lannister.
Right. There's Benedict.
He's good.
The glass eye killer.
Yeah. So Anthony Quinn, who plays Vivaldi, the big gangster, and like there's so many things going on. But that's what kind of like good scripts, bad scripts was talking about, is that even aside from the premise of the joke on top of the joke on top of the joke, is like it's just basic 3-act story structure that's completely screwed. When they go to there's a whole section when they go to the funeral of Leo the Fart.
That was the part that I was like, this seems like it's going to be the end of the movie, right? And then I look at the time and there's still 45 minutes left at that point,
if not more.
It's crazy.
And then he has to do it's so funny. The author who's writing it is going like, I can't believe I even have to say these things, but I must. Who is Leo the Fart?
Right.
What was what did he do that was so important? Why did we not see him before so that we can show that his funeral would be attended by all these people? And that's why, our hero has to go there and put it's just like, nope, there's a guy named Leo the Fart just so we can put a gas bomb in his ass.
Right.
So we can make the world's largest and most expensive pull my finger joke.
Yep. And
which
then
is exactly what they did.
Silent but deadly.
Silent but deadly.
If there were a movie,
it's Leo the Fart.
This movie could have ended as soon as they got out of Movie Land without at least one of the other villains.
Yeah.
And this movie would have been, I think, a really fun, interesting, solid movie that I think would be like held up on the pantheon of like, this is what an action comedy is like and can continue to be like.
Yeah. It's like, because why is like, again, simple questions. Why doesn't Benedict just kill Jack? Why does he need to bring the Ripper out of the world? Once he's realized that the golden ticket gets him to the real world, like his whole ending speech of like, this is not the movies. This is in here. The bad guys win. It was like, yeah, then why didn't you just immediately leave town? Leave like the whole idea of like, oh, if I bring this character who's just lock Jack in the movie.
Right.
Just lock him in the movie, rip up the ticket. Now you're the most evil literally cartoon villain on the planet.
Yeah.
Wall Street is right around the corner. You're in New York. Just make hundreds of be Wolf of Wall Street to reference yet again another movie. All those things why none of the characters' motivations made any sense.
Mm-mm.
And if you're going to start with the big mob boss, just you can have Benedict kill him, I'm like, well, then just skip ahead. It reminds me a lot of what Patton Oswalt talked about when he would get brought in late to be to be
a punch-up guy.
Yeah, a punch-up guy, and especially for animated films, and that's how he got into them, because he was like, oh, you can't. They're like, whoa. Like, we've already animated 80% of this movie. We've spent $75 million.
Right.
He's like, all right, well, you shouldn't do that. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, he got pulled in, and he had to do another punch-up, and he was walking out, and Katzenberg stopped him in the hallway. He says, you got a problem with how we make our movies? Again, like, yeah, the K in DreamWorks SKG. And he was like, he was like, no, seriously, walk in my office. And so Patton just kind of talked and said, like, yeah, this thing, like, if you brought me in earlier, I could have helped you. And said, like, hey, where the second act begins, that's really where, like, the first act, like, that should have been the first act starts. And
Right.
you can do all this. And he was like, okay, would you like to come work for us?
Oh, hey.
And he, like, basically, Patton talked himself. He basically created a job for himself. And then Katzenberg just hired him to, like, to do all this stuff and, like, save
Just
them.
to be like the guy who's like, hey, make
Yeah.
sure that this is following basic narrative structure.
Yeah, and they gladly paid him because he was saving them hundreds of millions of dollars by, like, not spending all this money to animate all this stuff and then only figuring out after they'd spent
Mm-hmm.
$85 to $100 million to bring him in and be like, can you write some jokes that are happening off screen?
Right.
Right? Like, here I am falling down a piece of butterscotch. That's how I feel about Last Action Hero. The more I think about it now, it's just like they did all those rewrites and where they were just like, the thing that you want, the thing that made you buy the script from these two guys in the first place is what you should have just gone back to and, like, just do that. Just streamline this. Also, like, why weren't there more references to the movies that Schwarzenegger had made?
Right.
It's right there. Just have him. Like, I understand there's only so much you can do because different movie studios own the properties.
Yeah.
And so there's
There's only so much you can do for fair use.
Yeah, and you can't probably say Predator, but you can have him in the jungle punching a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, punching an alien. Everyone goes, all right, hat tip.
Have him. There's
it.
got to be some way you can get a robot involved somewhere, right?
Thank you.
That's it.
And the easiest way, like, look at what they did with all the Austin Powers movies, where, like, Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise are showing up and all that. If you made it like that, if you made it a celebration,
Mm-hmm.
if you just made, like, if you said, James Cameron, let us use the Terminator robot, but you'll have a cameo where you're just having dinner at Spago and you just look up and go, oh, not again. Like, just do that stuff. Or like the Looney Tunes movie where all those guys were showing up and having conversations with themselves. Looney Tunes is like the one with Brendan Fraser and all that. That's okay of a movie because it's kind of thing of like, all right, I know what this is. But there's a really fun moment there where, you know, like, Matt Lillard is talking to the actual Shaggy, like the cartoon Shaggy. He's like, I just don't know if that's a real, I don't know if that's a fair impression of me. He's like, well, man, I'm just making a movie. You know?
Right.
Still, like, there wasn't enough of that kind of fun in Last
Yeah.
Action Hero.
And you know, and that's the thing. I think in hindsight, because I'm reading also stuff about the production as it goes on, where they're talking about, hey, this movie, you can still read the screenplay online. You can read the original version, and you can see.
Where do you go to get your scripts? I used to go to Scriptorama, but I don't think
I used to go to Scriptorama too.
Yeah.
and I
was like, this isn't going to last long.
No.
'Cause I know I'm reading stuff right now I should not be reading.
Dude, I was doing that all the back in college or high school too.
Yeah.
When it was like, because I did speech and debate in high school, so
Same.
people were looking.
Was it National Forensic League or?
I was NFL and Texas Forensic Association, the TFA.
What did you do in NFL? HIDI?
I was an oratory guy.
Oh.
That was my event that I locked into. I did
All
some HI. I did a little bit of in TFA. They had prose and poetry as regular events instead of like the consolations.
Yeah.
But yeah, oratory was my thing. But I tried doing HIs for a while and duos and stuff, and so of course you go look to find scripts and stuff that you can turn cuttings into.
HI and duo. I made it to nationals with HI my senior year. Yeah, it was nice, but not so nice because I did the Jerky Boys.
Oh,
and then
boy.
I did that, and they allowed me to do it in districts, which allowed me to. I made it to states. I was already going to go to states, but districts, winning districts is what got you to nationals.
Right.
And then states, between districts and states, someone complained, probably from Fayetteville 71st High School, our nemesis, that it wasn't technically because it was audio and not a script format. And so I went and hunted down. I got a letter from the president of their record label giving me full permission to do it.
There you go.
And the judges still went, no.
Wow.
Because it's not a script. So I had 6 weeks between districts and states. I had 6 weeks, and then nationals was like right after that. I had to like come up with a whole brand new thing after I've been doing it for a year. So the thing that got me into nationals, I wasn't even allowed to do.
That's such a
So I ended
bummer.
up doing Pfeiffer's People, and I still made it like 3 rounds before I got bounced. And I was just like, oh, if I had my gear.
Man, I got some.
If I had my gear, if I had my Jerky Boys, I'd be crushing this right now.
I remember there was a big controversy. I think it was my senior year in HI or maybe my junior year.
Yeah.
But it states for Texas, there was a guy who won state HI by doing Sinbad Smart as a Whip.
Oh.
He did 10 minutes from the routine.
Oh.
And he won with that.
Wow.
And everybody was like, hold the phone.
Hold up.
Wait a minute.
You're not playing multiple characters. You're just doing stand-up.
He did a backflip. And everybody was like, oh, you did
You're
it.
not allowed to move your feet 2 inches.
Texas is very, very loose.
I would have been up in arms about that.
But that's the thing, because like I remember earlier there was a guy who had been doing Bill Hicks. He had done, and to his credit, he didn't just pull a routine. He did actual stuff from the Bill Hicks book, from Love All the People.
Okay.
So he'd adapted.
That's fair.
And there's portions of routines in there, but there's also other stuff. So he'd adapted it into a piece. But then basically everybody was like, well, you're just doing Bill Hicks. That's not fair, because you're not doing anything but just one guy the whole time. Right. So then he changed and he started doing, he did Fuddy Mears instead. And he was great doing that. But that's the thing. It's like, it's in the way the interpretation, everybody was like up in arms, because it's like, you can't, how dare you? How dare you do this?
I will say, like, you have to do the multiple characters thing. That's part of it. And I actually teach in my improv class. It's one of the exercises I give people to like work on multiple characters is to do like basically a minute to minute breakdown of doing HI for all intents and purposes, but just making it up as you go. The only thing that made me feel really good about because again 71st was our and the way that they did it was even shadier. If at 71st High School in Fayetteville, if you were a freshman or a sophomore, you were not allowed to go to tournaments. You just had to train.
Oh, yikes.
And then there was only like 5 or 6 pieces that anyone was allowed to do. Okay. And those were the junior and seniors. So I was doing it for like sophomore through. So I was seeing 71st different people do the exact same piece, word for word, beat for beat, and the girl that was up against me was real haughty about it, and then I beat her, and it came down to the 2 of us at the end for districts. I mean, it was clear. It was a standing room only in the classroom as everyone's piling in to see the 2 of us.
Right, as you do in high school and for HIs.
As you do, it's a big deal. And then I won, and then I immediately felt terrible because she just burst into tears and dropped into a chair, and I was like, oh. You've just for 4 years it's been working up to this, and all you've done is listen to what your teacher told you to do. You've been aping, and you didn't bring any of your own creativity to this. And if you're not going to get the reward of going to nationals and trying to win, this has been completely hollow. Right. It's been worth nothing. I'm like, I had a bunch of fun. I got to do creative stuff. There's some of my best friends still. I got to meet a whole bunch of friends when I went to nationals. I was like, oh, this must be awful for you.
Well, you know what? And I'll tell you this. Oof. I did my senior year, and I didn't get into oratory until junior year. I was still kind of trying to figure out what to do. Sure. Junior year,
I did a little Lincoln to Douglas, but it wasn't for me.
I did student Congress for a little bit.
Yeah, this wasn't for me.
I was doing some stuff. And then so junior year, I do well. I get to state finals, and I got 5th place. And I was like, cool. It turns out oratory is my thing. Great. And so I spend summer between junior and senior year really crafting and working on this piece. And I felt really great about it. And it was very me. And I was like, this is the thing.
There are 7 people listening to this right now who are enraptured and love it. And everyone else is going, what?
Everyone tuned in to talk about The Last Action Hero. And now we're going deep into forensics.
At Bloodsucking Bastards, we had at one of the film festivals we went to, we met a guy who had a film in there and really loved it. He was like, hey, I'm going to the party. I got a car. Do you want to ride with me? And me and Dave Parker were like, hell yeah. And I was like, oh, by the way, what's your movie that's in the festival? He's like, I made a documentary. I don't know if you know about it, but there's this thing called Forensics in high school. I was like, yeah, dude. HI, I went to Nashville. He's like, no way. And we started talking, and 10 minutes in, Dave Parker was like, what are you talking about?
Wait, do you remember what the documentary is?
I don't remember the name of the documentary.
Is it by chance called Thank You for Judging?
It may be.
Because I was in that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that's about Texas forensics.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5 years ago. And we started. Yep. It was. Thank you for judging.
That's the one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now I got to watch it. Dave was like, what are you talking about? We're like, yeah, at any moment, there's 7 million high school students that are actively engaged in the NFL, National Forensic League, or there's the CFL, which is the Catholic Forensic League, if you're that are for Catholic schools. And Dave Park looked at us like we were wizards. He was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean magic is real?
One of my best friends was in that movie as a prominent character, and because they came to 5 different high schools in the area, and they were talking to all of us.
I was in North Carolina. Ours, I forget the name. of the festival we put up, but ours was the largest festival. Ours was the largest tournament in the Southeast.
So we had our school.
Oh, Randy Shaver's going to kill me for not remembering the name of the tournament.
My buddy was like the guy. Like he was the HI guy.
Oh yeah.
Everybody was like, oh, he's fine. Like he's gonna win.
HI guys were rock stars.
He was great.
They were rock stars.
He was like, there's no way he's not gonna win at some point because like he'd never gotten past. He'd gotten far. He'd qualified for state like since a freshman year.
Oh yeah.
And then the movie they portrayed him as a villain.
Oh no.
And at state because he got knocked out in like the second round out of 5 or 6 rounds. And so like,
oh no.
And then on top of that, to add insult to injury, they make him look like a dumb rich kid asshole villain in the movie, which is not the kind of guy he is.
It's not, but narrative
it's just like,
that you're trying to tell.
But anyway, so this is the same year that this is all going on.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone to the Nationals qualifiers, and it was at my high school. And so I remember like every once in a while, my coaches would come out and they would talk to me about like how I was doing in between rounds. They're like, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. And I get the finals posting goes up and I'm up in finals. And I was like, be honest with me. How am I doing? And my coach tells me, she goes, you've gotten first place in every round except for one so far. So you just go in there and do what you've been doing all day. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, cool.
Take the pressure off. Go have fun.
Yeah. And I go in and I do the same thing I've been doing all day. Mm-hmm. And I got last place in the room.
What?
And I dropped from first place overall to 5th place overall.
Just out of the running.
And I lost to a girl who did a speech on it was just
a conspiracy,
a hardcore vegan gal, and she was like, in the speech was just meat is murder, and it was just this girl like very sternly talking to everybody about how we shouldn't eat meat.
Oh, there's nothing I love more than a teenager just wagging their finger at me,
dude. And we go, and so I was devastated because I was like, this was my last chance. And so we have state the next week, and I'm like, I gotta go to state. I gotta do well at state.
Yeah,
go to the state. Go through the rounds, get to semis. I'm in the same room with this chick again.
No.
Bethany Livernoise.
Oh, no. What an unfortunate name for this story.
I'm sure
it's a perfectly fine name everywhere else, but like this woman, Bethany Livernoise.
And she's wearing a red pantsuit, and I'm like, Bethany, it's on.
Oh,
and I go in, and I'm like, I gotta do it. And I perform my ass off, and then they roll the finals postings out like 2 or 3 hours later. And I'm up there and Bethany's not.
Yeah,
and
suck it.
Because it was, who else was in that room? It was, besides me who advanced, the guy who not only won state, the guy who won nationals that year.
Oh,
so I was like,
good.
Sweet revenge.
That feels good.
Knocked her out.
It's not a Pyrrhic victory, but there's definitely a moral victory in there.
It felt good.
I hope there's not a bunch of men rights activists that listen to this and take it and go like, turn this into some weird YouTube clip. They're like, see what happens when men. Anywho, last action hero.
Last action hero. So
this is what happens when you get forensic people together. It immediately just snaps back.
I think that this movie,
like once you have MC Scat Cat or its equivalent show up, there's a cartoon cat cop that shows up in the beginning and the end of the film. I'm like lean into that. Do more stuff like that.
Anytime this movie really showed like its flashes of fun.
Yes.
There were points where it felt at sometimes very scattershot, but the times when they were referencing actual action movie tropes. And like the scene where Danny's the kid's name. And Danny. And they're showing like they're in the ex-wife's house and he's got on the pad of paper, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, hey, say this word. I can't say that word. You know why? Because this is a PG-13 movie. Of course you can't say it.
Of course you can't say that's bad language.
And I was like, that's fun. Okay, I get that. I see you.
Yeah.
But it's like the last reference to any kind of movie-related thing in that realm was maybe 15 minutes prior to that.
Yeah.
And it's also spread out at that point that it's like, no, trust me. Remember, you're still watching a movie. We know what you know.
The checkpoints are so few and far between so that when it gets to the end and Arnold Schwarzenegger has a gaping chest wound and this kid trying to drag like this, he's basically dying in front of Danny, and Danny's trying to drag him back into the screen where it'll just be a flesh wound, like the whole joke, where it gets too serious. It's too dark at that point, and it's raining, and there's a serial killer who's also a child molester. Like, because that's what the Ripper.
Heavy.
Yeah, and then like here's another thing too. Like with Danny's mom in real life, I love that actress, but they don't look anything alike.
Not a lick.
Whatsoever. I'm like, so now the movie, not the movie inside the movie that I'm supposed to be taking as real life is also being filled with weird classic action movie tropes that don't kind of like make sense. It's I don't know. It's there's a weird sort of tonal nightmare that they could never really sort of wrestle. And again, these are all professionals at the top of their game.
Right. You know what? You know what?
Killed all three of them for a good long while. Like,
for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I think at the end of the day is like talking more and more about it with you. This movie really reminds me tonally of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, 100%.
And Who Framed Roger Rabbit does this genre so well.
Impeccably well.
Because it knows how to stay within the bounds and not keep going past where it logically would make sense to end.
Yeah, it's got film noir and it's got cartoons, and it blends it, and that's it. And so it hits all those guys like, yeah, having the cute baby who's also, and it's also kind of like movie. It's kind of like, you know, it's Hollywood.
Right.
Inside baseball. So yeah, having the baby with the cigar, like, oh yeah, I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Right.
And then they save it all for the end where it's like, we gotta go to Toontown.
Yep.
And then like that sequence where he pulls out the gun, the cartoon gun.
Yeah.
Fills it up. They're all like,
right. The cartoon bullets.
Oh, is that you? And he shoots them, and it has like, I mean, like they're very problematic racial stereotypes all throughout that movie.
Of course. I mean, that's you're pulling on that.
Yeah, and they're like, but I mean, it's kind of thing like, yeah, shooting the bottle, and the bullet is an Indian that pulls out a huge tomahawk and gets it. Everything from that bit to when he drives through into Toontown and through the tunnel and it changes.
Yep.
Everything from that until the end, you're like, I'm on board.
Right.
You can throw the craziest shit at me and it doesn't matter because it's Toontown.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they never really had any of that fun. I mean, they had sometimes like when the monster truck comes out, like, all right, that's funny.
Right.
All right, that's good. Of course, that's what he drives, doing all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like having the daughter show up and all that, like, oh, my ex-wife, and like she's like, you know, all that stuff. I'm like, all right.
Let me ask you something. And this
high key lighting is so high key in that movie too.
let me ask you this, and we'll wrap it up on this.
Sure.
There's obviously as time has gone on,
yes,
and the career of, in particular, Shane Black, who I think has his biggest this is obviously a movie that is a landmark movie for him, and people look back on it and they're like, yeah, that's one of the Shane Black. It's got a Shane Black stamp. You can't miss it. It's obvious.
Yeah, The Last Boy Scout and The Last Action Hero were the like sort of 1-2 punches where he had to go away for a while.
And that's what I was going to ask is, what do you think? At what point do you feel like a screenwriting A-lister is very hard to come by? And it feels like at that point he had hit that peak and became that role, and then he dipped, and then now he's sort of coming back into that
like Joe
prominence again. Yeah,
I think the big thing with Shane is that Shane had a very, very bad drug problem. Like he needed to like get help. And I know because I used to run a pool hall that is now defunct called the Hollywood Billiards. And so I got to meet a lot of guys, and Shane was one of them. Mm-hmm. Very cool, very like, you know, down to earth. And people were just then starting to talk. This was like 2000, 2001. And even then people were starting to talk about, yeah, Shane's coming back. He's got his life together. He still owns his mansion. Like he never like got really hit rock bottom.
Good.
He still kept a lot of his money. He didn't go all up his nose.
Nice high bottom. Good move.
Yeah. And so they're like, yeah, Shane's coming back. He's starting to do little pieces here and there. And then when Kiss Kiss Bang Bang came out, which is an amazing way of telling that type of winking to the audience about all the sort of tropes.
Yes.
That was his real sort of comeback. And then from there, it was just like, yeah, Shane's back, baby. And then Iron Man 3 and all those kind of things. And he's still doing all this stuff. And his scripts are some of the most fun to read because it's one of the first times I'd always been told in film school of like, you have to be very professional and you can't do, and yeah, you can't do certain things like, you can't say, and then this song comes on the radio, because people read that and go like, well, you know how much money that song's going to cost? And it kind of, I'd always been told that in film school, it's like that kind of outs you as like an amateur.
Right.
They're like, yeah, you know, Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones does not come on because that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the rights to use that song.
Right.
This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But you read Shane's and his role, like he was one of the first guys that sort of figured out how to write to the reader. And to keep him engaged. And so like all that stuff of like action lines of like, Houston, we've got a problem. And like everything is a new action line. And like his scripts just move.
Right.
There are no action lines that have like more than 3 sentences ever.
Which is, I think, crucial if you're wanting to write a script that people, if you want something to get made, it's got to be something that people enjoy reading on the page.
Yeah, it moves. He's like, Houston, we've got a problem. Or he's like, uh-oh. And like, bam. What you like, strap. There's literally a line. I can't remember. It's not Die Hard. I don't think he wrote that anyway. But it's a movie like that he wrote. I just remember reading it and my buddy Bob Hardison pointing it out. At one point, he was like, strap into your seat, fuckers, because here's where it gets real. And I'm like, this is in the script. He's so like, I'm like, yeah, you read that thing and it's a party. Now, obviously, Shane is also in some trouble now because he's been taking care of a friend who may have misled him.
Yep.
Put him in stuff. From what I know and everything, like it's a toughie, and I'm not an expert on the subject matter at all, nor as a straight white guy do I want to tell anyone how to feel around that. But I hope that it does eventually sort of prove out that Shane wasn't aware and that his buddy sort of misled him on like how serious this scenario and situation was. Because dude, that's real bad.
It's bad. You can't go around casting abusers. That depth in this day and age, especially, but like at all, also,
or like at all, ever. Never should that have happened in the first place.
Absolutely,
but again, it's one of those things of like, unfortunately, with this business, is that it's impossible to have a conversation about anything without having to say like, all right, am I able to separate the artist from the art? Some places I can, some places I can't, and it really just comes down to that. It comes down to like how serious is it, like, and as being a survivor myself, I would say sexual abuse of minors is that's a cutoff point for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not.
No, there's no
art here.
None. Yeah, absolutely none.
Yeah, so it's like, like Andrew Dice Clay is back and he's just serious. I'm like, yeah, he's in a Woody Allen movie. Have we forgotten? Yeah. Why does this guy keep making movies? Why does he still have money? But that's for another podcast.
Another pod.
Also, a movie like when Fences came out, I was like, I'm never going to see that movie. And they're like, why? I was like, I did forensics. You know how many times I've seen Fences in duos?
Enough.
Oh, in the South, yeah, dude. If it was an African American duo, I'm a big fan of August Wilson plays. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is my personal favorite, but I can never see Fences again, just like I can never see anything done by Christopher Durang. I've seen it.
Christopher Durang's been done to death.
I've seen it.
I remember.
Why don't you ever come to my football game? Whoever said I had to like you? Like, I know Fences backwards and forward from how many times I've seen it, just like Baby in the Bathwater, just like Pfeiffer's People. I can't. I
remember
Steel Magnolias. Holy shit. How many times I saw Steel Magnolias? Forget it.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, can't do it.
The one time I saw I remember seeing one person do a good Christopher Durang piece one time, and they did Titanic.
Oh,
which is like the most left field of Christopher Durang picks.
Yeah, it's usually Baby with the Bathwater. What's Beyond? What's it?
Oh god,
it's the one with the two.
I blocked so much Christopher Durang out of my memory.
They're on a first date, and he's saying like, "If you move in with me, and my gay lover who lives in the attic."
Yeah.
Beyond Therapy.
That's one.
Beyond Therapy. Yeah, those like for Sister Agnes, all those things.
Yep.
But Titanic, I was like, oh, that's right. I haven't thought about Titanic,
and that's the one.
Years.
That's the good one. That's the one.
That's the one.
You know, I have, and actually, I do have one last question for you.
Please.
If there was anything that could have changed in the movie making process to where the original screenplay was honored and that the Shane Black edits did not happen and the rewrite didn't exist.
And I don't want to put it all on Shane Black because I think that movie went through like 20 rewrites.
Oh, it went through a ton of rewrites.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But there was a lot in there. And it totally changed the direction that the original screenwriters intended.
100%.
Do you want to see that original movie sometime?
Yes, with a caveat.
What's that?
I need, and this is where you can help me out with this because obviously this day and age we wouldn't be able to do it. But one of the places where I thought another place because they also try to make. We were talking about the serious parts
Yes.
of Last Action Hero, where they were trying to make it a little too serious and things. But there is a movie that did something similar. That was a very serious action movie that took itself seriously and did it very well. And that's Enemy of the State. Enemy of the State, for all intents and purposes, is an unofficial sequel to The Conversation, to the point where Gene Hackman is playing a character named Harry, who was in the CIA and was a recorder specialist on that. He's literally playing just his character from The Conversation. Fast forward 30 years, and then everyone in that movie. The movie is very well made. It's a who's who of who's upcoming in Hollywood: Will Smith, Jack Black, Seth Green, Jamie Kennedy, Jake Busey, Regina King. It is that movie. Lisa Bonet. That movie is loaded with fucking talent, and it's a really solid movie that you can watch today and just enjoy it. If it came out today, everyone would be like, "How great is this movie?" And then Barry Pepper, like everybody's in that movie. Just as about to get famous, or about 2 years before they get famous, or like Will Smith, like 2 years right before he becomes a mega star, like Tom Cruise level mega star. That is done super well. So if there was a way that if you could do it, like if you could take, who would be the equivalent of Gene Hackman, French Connection, Popeye Doyle era Gene Hackman, if you could make that movie today, but take something like French Connection, but do it like Popeye Doyle is in a movie, finds out he's in real life, and having to like figure out how to do all those things. Of course, being like,
I'm trying to think of who would be the best version.
Who's like a Gene Hackman? Like, yeah, who could you imagine being?
Like, but that's the thing. It's like it's the movies like that.
It's not a Chris Pine. It's not a Mark Wahlberg.
No, it's got to be someone who I think has that sort of the gravitas required.
Like, you know what?
Because that's what Gene Hackman has.
Adrian Brody.
He could do it.
Adrian Brody's got an Oscar, but he's also done Predators. Come back to another, come back to the whole Schwarzenegger, tying it all in. Done Predators. He's done action stuff, but he's also good at comedy. Like he did, he hosted SNL and didn't embarrass himself.
Yeah,
I bet. If they took Adrian Brody as like a Serpico type with the beard and the hoodie,
he could do it.
And then do that original script where he gets brought into the real world, and it's like the little girl from the reboot of Annie. She's playing Danny. Danny with an I. Yeah, it's a multicultural thing. She brings him. He's like,
Quevin Janae Wallace.
Yeah. So where she brings him into what, like, yeah, because if his movie is from like the 80s, and she brings him into Times Square in 2019, and him looking around, going like, what the heck? Where are all the hookers? Where's all the strip joints? She's like, this is the Lion King on Broadway. What is the Lion King? Okay, time out. Yeah, you could have a lot of fun with that.
And we're gonna call this movie We Found Another Action Hero.
We found another action hero. I think you got to go out on that.
Well, we're gonna go out on that. Thanks for coming in today, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Where can the listeners find your work and see you perform if they're interested?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, you can see both me and Jay Light at our home theater, the Pack Theater.
Great spot. Love
Very
Pack
good
Theater.
spot. Every fourth Saturday of the month, do a show with Dr. God Revival. I don't know when this is coming out, so we got a lot of great guests coming up. We've had very blessed and lucky to have a lot of great guests. We're going to have some more. And then most recent movie I directed, Bloodsucking Bastards. You can find that on Amazon Prime now. It was on Showtime for forever and ever. And now it's been 4 years, so now it's time for it to be on the Amazons and all that kind of stuff. And then online, I've been very fortunate that both my Twitter and my Instagram are the same. It's at B3OC, B, the number 3, O, and C. And then my website is itsboc.com, itsboc.com.
Super duper.
Thanks, man.
You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for show dates. And, of course, come check out, I've got my regular show at the Pack, Spike the Punchline, with my buddy Dean Peters.
That is correct.
First Saturday of every month.
Yes, big fan.
And we got a big, for the March show.
I booked that show.
You did book that show. Thank you for that.
You are very welcome.
Thanks for giving us a new home.
Yeah,
the Clubhouse was a fun time, but we love the Pack more than the Clubhouse.
Yeah,
and I'm not afraid to say that publicly.
That's okay. It was one of the last things I got to do before I handed over the reins to Alyssa Phillips, so it was real fun and nice.
And we're doing a fun, it's called Chortle Combat, which Dean did a pilot run of. We're doing that for the whole show in March with some special guests. Like we got Luke Null from SNL coming in.
Hell yeah.
We got some other people. You'll see soon, guys.
They bring the thunder on that old chortle and the old Spike the Punchline.
We do.
Good guess.
Can.
Good guess. Come.
Oh boy! Oh, I'm so excited. I'm full of joy. Thanks for listening to Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.